Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, trash, it's my weekly wrap-up. So this is my wrap-up for week 4 of Go Up August, which was WTF week. Where we were reading books that would make us question our lives and everything we knew. I'm not sure I really succeeded in that in the books I chose. I think it was probably the most challenging week. I know a lot of people struggled to pick books for this week, but certainly I did say to myself WTF a number of times during the books I was reading. So I'll talk about those today. And then I'll talk about, kind of channel stuff like I normally do. So what videos have gone up in the last week and what videos will go up in the week ahead. So it's been my first week back at work after a couple of weeks off and being ill with COVID. So I'm feeling a lot better now. But yeah, it's been a very, very busy week at work. So I kind of went into this video thinking that I hadn't read that much, but actually I've got how many books? 6 books to talk about, so I've not done too badly, despite it being a bit of a manic week, and certainly my reading over the last 2 or 3 days has slowed down dramatically. But I did have quite a good weekend last weekend where I managed to get through some stuff. So yeah, let's talk about the books I've read. So, first one, I think it was the first one I read, was Sister Sister by Andrew Neiderman. So Andrew Neiderman is the person who now writes all the V.C. Andrews books and has done since Virginia Andrews died. So Sister Sister is one of his own books, published in, I think, early 90s, so 92, which is about conjoined twins who have like psychic abilities. So you can see on the back there the rather cheesy image of the 2 twins. Whether this is actual twins or just a Photoshop, I'm not sure, but I'm fairly sure they're not conjoined twins. So yeah, it was. I didn't enjoy this book very much at all. So there's a lot of kind of scientific mumbo jumbo in it, and it turns out, and this isn't a huge spoiler, that there's like all this experimentation going on these 2 twins who are just known as alpha and beta. So they're in like this laboratory kind of setting, and all various people, you learn right from the start, various people who've been involved in their care, so like their tutor and things like that, have died mysteriously. So there's a bit of enjoyment in those mysterious deaths. But it just felt quite exploitative and not a terribly interesting treatment of the subject. There are many books and films about this, this particular topic, and this is by no means a shining example of them. It was definitely trashy, and elements of the denouement did make me scratch my head and go, what the fuck? Because there's some very weird stuff going on later on in the book. But yeah, it wasn't that good to read. I then read a book which definitely made me go WTF many times, which is a book I've been meaning to read for a little while and has always been on my list for Go Up August. So this is Firefly by Piers. So this is Piers obviously is best known for the Xanth novels, which are a long-running series of fantasy novels, which are quite, kind of humorous and fun and frivolous, and certainly, lots of people I know really enjoyed them as teenagers. So Firefly, what's Firefly about? So Firefly advertises itself as a novel of ecstatic terror, and it's about, so it's set in Florida, and it's about a series of mysterious, unexplained deaths where the victims seem to have had, and there's animals that have died this way as well as people, seem to have effectively had like all the juices sucked out of them. And what's bizarre about it is that people, when they come across these like crime scenes, find themselves getting unexpectedly aroused. And this is quite a long book. It's nearly 500 pages. So it's got this kind of quite hokey, cheesy, premise. But where Piers then takes it is into an analysis of male-female relationships, and his his philosophy on male-female relationships is a very strange and uncomfortable one at times. In particular, kind of central to the book, there's this relationship between this man who's like a kind of caretaker in the area where these deaths have occurred, who's impotent, and this woman who's coming out of an abusive relationship. And through the course of the book, she tells him various stories which are kind of like folklore type, fairy tale type things about male, but which all centre on male-female relationships. One of which is one of the most deeply disturbing things I've read for a long time, and not in a good way. And there's an afterword by Piers where he talks about his motivations for writing the book, which just further cemented my notion that he has very strange ideas about what is acceptable in male-female relationships, and is an interesting character. So this was not an enjoyable book to read, not gripping really in any sense, quite strange and really quite unpleasant at times. So yes, I finished it, but I did 1 star it, and it's very rare for me to 1 star a book that I've actually finished. Normally if I get to the end of a book, I've found enough redeeming qualities in it to give it at least 2 stars, but this was a 1 star read, most definitely. Okay, so I think after that I needed something a bit lighter, so I read Lone Star book 142, Lone Star and the Deadly Vixens, which was fun. So I've read one of the long old books, which is the series that kind of then spawned this series. So this series is about these 2 central characters, Jessie, who is a kind of female gunfighter, and Kai, who is and I can't remember where he's supposed to come from. I'm not even sure that it says, but an Asian martial arts guy who like travels around with her, and they take on various people. So in this book, a group of women who Jessie knows from the past, who've been wronged, are kind of going on a rampage basically, and it's about that. So it was fine, but the kind of central plot didn't grip me as much as I was expecting it to. There's a reasonable amount of sex in the book, and these series are known for that, and that was fine. There's this relationship between Jessie and this guy she meets who's a bit of a waster, which just seemed to me to go from them kind of meeting each other and being vaguely attracted to them, declaring their undying love for each other very, very quickly. So yeah, that was a bit odd. So yeah, it was an enjoyable 3-star read, but it wasn't quite as good as I was hoping it would be, I must admit. But the action sequences in it were excellent. Then read another definite WTF book. So this is one that I got in a job lot of romance books that I bought off eBay a while ago, specifically for girl books. So this is And When Love Speaks by Valentine. When I looked up Valentine, it looks like, so this came out I think in the 60s, and he wrote at least one other book which essentially has got pretty much exactly the same premise, which came out I think about a decade earlier. So whoever Valentine was, he clearly had a hang up about relationships between older men and younger women, which is what this is about. So it's the reason I picked it for WTF week is it's about a guy who's one of his best friends dies. The guy is he's 30, and his friend was a bit older, and his friend has this teenage daughter who's 17, who's away at boarding school. Who now needs someone to look after her, basically. So he effectively adopts this girl who comes to stay with him for the summer. He's a bachelor, and they fall in love. So it's a book, a romance book about the relationship between a nearly middle-aged man and his teenage adopted daughter, which did seem a bit WTF for me. And as I say, this other book, I forget the name of it. Valentine wrote another book before this with basically exactly the same premise, but an even bigger age gap between the 2 characters. I think the guy in that one's in like his 50s. So the premise is an uncomfortable one, but actually it was reasonably well written. It's didn't feel kind of exploitative at all, and it felt like it did. It did quite interestingly explore the challenges of a relationship where there's a big age gap between the two participants. I would say that nothing happens between them until after she's 18, and even then there's no sex in the book. But yeah, it was actually more interesting and less trashy than I expected it to be, given the premise. It wasn't by any means a great book, but it was quite interesting and quite an entertaining read. I then read a couple of Kindle books. So one, which I definitely picked for WTF week, was Stuck on You by Jasper, which is a horror novella about a guy who wakes up with no memory of what's happened to him, with a naked woman who he is in the middle of making love to, and she's dead. And he's stuck somehow. It didn't really properly explain, as far as I could say, how they came to be stuck, but they are stuck together, and it just sort of runs with that premise. So it's one of those kind of extreme horror type books which goes out of its way to be disgusting, and it didn't really work for me at all. I really didn't enjoy it. And the other thing that made me go WTF about it is I read it on Kindle. It's one of those Kindle books where you get to 50%, the indicator shows you are 50% through the book, and suddenly it finishes, and then there's a load of crap at the end, like previews of other books and things like that. So it tricks you into thinking it's longer than it was, which always catches me off guard. And I think it kind of spoils the rhythm of a book, because you when you read a book, you generally have a sense of how much more there is to go, and your expectations are linked to that. And when a book ends before you expect it to, even if the writing is good, it can feel quite abrupt, and the writing wasn't good in this book. So yeah, did not enjoy that one at all. And then finally, and this isn't really a WTF pick, but definitely a Garb August pick, is a book which I was really looking forward to reading, but was actually quite disappointed by, which is The Nest by Gregory A. Douglas. So this is a killer animals book. So I love killer animals books. It was, I think, the first of the Paperbacks from Hell books to be republished by Valentine, and it's a very well respected entry in the killer animals genre. Kelsey from Slime and Slashers did an excellent review of it, which was very funny, involving a giant inflatable cockroach, a little while ago, and she really liked it. But I really didn't enjoy this book at all. So it's about an island community in New England, I think, that gets plagued by killer cockroaches who can kind of act together and are therefore more dangerous. And it's got the normal things that you'd expect in a book like that. So kind of various people in the community working together, a number of death scenes, some scientists getting involved and talking science, and eventually the threat getting defeated. And there's a romance subplot that runs through it as well. And some of the gore scenes, some of the horror scenes are fantastic. They're just really out there. There's at least one, I think maybe more than one, part where a male character loses male people's most treasured parts of their anatomy, and the cockroaches generally seemed to be attracted to orifices in people and things like that. So it was enjoyably disgusting in parts, but what it lacked for me was tension in the overall story. The science mumbo jumbo bits were a bit too mumbo jumbo-y for me and just went on a bit. And it, whilst the kind of detail of the gore was entertaining, what he failed to do as an author, I think, is really set up the set pieces. So I was reflecting back on a review that Andrew from It Came From The Page did of Lair, the second of the Rats books by James Herbert, where he talks about, one of the things that James Herbert does fantastically is like these set piece horror scenes. And whilst the gore was entertaining in The Nest, it doesn't have that, that it didn't feel like it really came together in these scenes into scenes that were, completely immersive and entertaining. It was more like you knew horrible stuff was happening and he described the horrible stuff, and it was quite fun, but it didn't really grip. So I was unexpectedly disappointed by the Nest. I really didn't enjoy it that much. So I finished that this morning. So I now have, it's the 27th today, so we've got 4 days of Garb August left. Or was it 5? I suppose it's 5, really, isn't it? So I can get a little bit more in. What I've just started reading is Fallen Hearts by V.C. Andrews. So this is the September pick for Kelly Hooked On Books' V.C. Andrews reading group, which I'm very much enjoying being part of. So this is the third book in the Castile saga. I was planning to read this in September, but I filmed my September TBR video, which went up yesterday, and completely forgot about this book. And I've already got 2 minutes in my TBR, so there's no way I'll get it in September. So I figured it's a definite Garb August fit. So I will read it before the end of the month. Also, I have shown this before, but it does amuse me. My edition has a lovely step back cover with a dude inside who appears to be Donald Trump. I'm guessing it's not actually supposed to be Donald Trump, although that would be a good twist, wouldn't it? So yes, I'm like 20-30 pages into this, and I really enjoyed it so far. And then I will try and read something else for Garb August before the end of the month. I'm not entirely sure what. I might read, now I can't remember what it's called, The Piercing by John Coyne. So I read The Searing, his book about killer orgasms, in the run-up to Garb August, and I've subsequently bought The Piercing as well, which is a book about stigmata, apparently with a sexy twist, according to one from Played by Visions, which I didn't realise, so that's made me want to read it more. So yeah, I may try and fit that in before the end of August as well. So yes, that's what I've been reading this week. In terms of channel stuff, so videos that have gone up in the last week or so. So as I mentioned, I've put my September TBR up. So I'm taking part in 3 reading events in September. So there's a lot of books for me to get through. So we'll see if I manage it or not. I did a review of a book called Thor by Wayne Smith, which I absolutely loved. I did an episode of Ask Criminale. I did the BookTube Kindness Shoutout tag, which was a lot of fun to do. I did a video on what is my perfect book, which people seem to have quite enjoyed, and MJ from Reading This Life has weaponised it into a tag. And my Sunday Bollocks video last week was kind of more thoughts on trash fiction. In the week ahead, so I think my Sunday Bollocks video tomorrow is going to be about the notion of like having a balanced diet in our reading and reflecting back on my experiences of Garb August. I think for Tag Tuesday I will do the modern literary canon tag, which is going around, which I think is really interesting, and I'm going to focus on crime and horror for that. I'll do another episode of Ask Criminale. I've got a review slot on Thursday, and I've got no idea what I'm going to do for that. It might be The Piercing, actually, if I manage to read that, or it might be something else that I read this week. I really do not know. And on Friday I'm going to do a Garb August wrap-up video, so just talking about Garb August as a whole, you know, how the event's gone, and also obviously talking about the books I read for it, of which there are many. So I won't be going into detail, but I will go through them all. So yeah, that's my plans for the week ahead. Monday I will try and put a video up. I've got no idea what I'm going to do for Monday's video, but I will think of something. So yeah, I'll try and get something up on Monday as well. So let me know in the comments what you've been reading for week 4 of Garb August. Let me know if you found any WTF gems. I've quite enjoyed it, although as I say, I'm not convinced I picked the best books for it. I did have a number of very WTF-y reads in my run up to Garb August, so I think I might have shot my bolt too early, shall we say. I think maybe some of those I should have saved for WTF week. But anyway, I've had fun with it. So yeah, let me know what you've read. And as always, I hope you're safe and well. I hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.